The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is enough. I like that quote a lot. I heard that recently on the radio. And you're thinking, well, Nick, what does that have to do with receding hairlines or hair loss? I don't get it. I know it's kind of a deep thing, but I've been wanting to make this video for a while. I didn't know how to carry this message in the way I want to, and hopefully you can kind of see where I'm coming from on this. But let's go to that theory. If someone is poor, so poor that they're in poverty, they're not needing to become wealthy to be out of poverty. They just need enough to get out of poverty, right? So the opposite of poverty is not wealth. It's simply enough. I feel the same concept, interestingly, strangely, and you may say this is a stretch, but it actually applies to hair loss. Because here's what I feel. I think for most of us watching these videos that I'm making, we are experiencing hair loss to some degree. Obviously, I'm not experiencing it as bad as people younger than me. For some people, for others, I've lost more hair than people who are older than me. But we're all in that same boat, and I've said that together. We're brothers here in the hair loss. We're all in the same boat here, and I think basically once you get stricken with hair loss to some degree, to any degree, and that's why I made it part of the brotherhood rules, is that you can't judge another brother on how little or how much hair he's lost, because in this theory here, we're all in that form of poverty. As long as we see ourselves as to some degree of less value as a man, as an individual, as a person, that we're less worthy of things in life because of this hair loss situation, or we're less attractive, or whatever it is, whatever limitations we allow ourselves to believe in the back of our minds because of hair loss, we are allowing ourselves to believe that we are in some form in poverty. And what's the solution here as far as getting out of this poverty? So I talk about plans to get out of it, whether it's you getting a hair transplant, or you shaving your head, or buzzing your hair, or whatever it is. But it's a matter of getting out of that mentality of poverty. And I think this is a new way of looking at how we deal with and accept our own hair loss and move forward with our lives. I made a video last week even saying, in essence, if I'm good enough at what I do, in theory, a lot of people will move on from my channel because they'll realize their value is not in their hair, it's in all these other things. And so I think it helps me to say this out loud, because it helps me process too. I don't want to in any degree be limited by my own mind as I basically dub myself a guy that is dealing with hair loss. Yeah, I accept that as my identity, as I made in the video yesterday. Your identity changes to some degree internally, internally more so than on the outside, I believe. That should be its own video. Did you hear what I just said? And remember, I don't rehearse these videos. I talk out loud and say stuff as I press record. But perhaps the greatest change that happens when we start losing our hair is on the inside and not the outside. In fact, I think that's quite a big deal, because I've already told you all the ways that we make such a big deal about hair loss while the outside world doesn't, that they're not judging us to the same degree that we judge ourselves. So yeah, it's a major change that happens on the inside of us. So, but if we think that we are in poverty, in essence, symbolically of course, because of this loss of hair, then we always will be, I mean, and it's the same thing with people who are poor. And then there are certain people who, because that's all they knew, they continue that lifestyle, right? They continue buying lottery tickets. They continue buying cigarettes. They continue making poor decisions that will never allow them to build that wealth. Meanwhile, somebody like me, who wasn't born in poverty, I was born in lower middle class, and I worked myself to mid-middle class, and I'm very fixated on making money on the side, like making these videos, and investing money, and that sort of thing. But it's a matter of getting out of that poverty mindset. And a book, one of the most influential books I've ever read, by Robert Kiyosaki, that I've mentioned a few times, but Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you've ever read that book, then you know what I'm talking about. He talks about getting out of the mindset of poverty, even getting out of the mindset of the middle class, and moving your way up to thinking the way that wealthy people think. And I guess really that's what this video is about today. It's about us. Right now, I want you to ask yourself, as I'm ultimately asking myself, am I looking at myself as someone who's in the poverty of hair loss? Yes, I'm experiencing hair loss. And again, it doesn't matter how much hair I've lost or whatever stage, that's irrelevant. Internally, do I see myself as someone who's in poverty when it comes to hair loss? Or do I see myself as someone who's working his way out of that, or even possibly worked his way out of that? Because it's not a matter of how much hair you do or do not have. It's a matter of how you see and perceive yourself, and therefore that's what the rest of the world see. Another thing I heard on the radio today, and I know this sounds really cheesy, but they were talking about how people can become more physically attractive, and they were explaining how science has proven through showing people pictures of other people that people are always deemed more attractive when they're smiling. So when you're happier and you're smiling more, that automatically makes you more attractive no matter how much hair you have. So I'm imagining someone who's got hair loss and he's smiling and he's happy about it, which I am, compared to the guy who just is really bummed out about this and he's not smiling. I'm already more attractive even if I've got the same amount of hair as that guy. So I know this is a little bit, out there compared to most of my videos. This is a little bit more deep. There's the blizzard. But I think there's a lot to take in here if you can pick up on what I'm saying in this video. So let me close with that thought one more time. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is enough. Once we can believe in ourselves enough, despite this, and not see this as a limitation, but see this as just normal, because it is. It's normal. We're of the majority. It's normal. We can accept ourselves. We can be happy. We can smile. People see us as confident. That's what they're looking for in us. So, I'm not in poverty when it comes to hair loss. In fact, I actually consider myself wealthy when it comes to hair loss. And remember, what I mean by that, it's not about how much hair I have. And it has nothing to do with my finances. It's when it comes to my confidence level, despite my hair loss, this isn't holding me back. And for newcomers, they think I'm obsessed with hair loss because I make all the videos about it. But that's only to help other people and to relate to other people, which actually adds value in the world of making this stretch further and helping other people with it. The opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is enough.